Um, Africa has received global attention in the 21st century as the continent of growth and opportunities. You're talking about leaders like you, Cliff, right? um,
Mhm.
um, you need homegrown leaders to unlock these opportunities and access global markets. However, a conducive, and you talked about this already. However, a conducive environment is needed. From your own experience, Cliff, do you believe Botswana and other African countries are working to empower and equip leaders in science and
Mhm.
technology?
I've always said in my space and where I'm at, the most important thing for me is to ensure that I can impart whatever that I learn into the next generation of leaders and engineers who are going to take after me, right? So I've, I've emphasized it, this is in quite a lot of platforms to say, you know what,
Mm,
um, until Botswana realizes the need to actually invest in leaders and actually ensuring that there's succession, we're going to have a problem. I believe you know that we have an issue of youth unemployment, and
yeah.
that poses a great threat to our economy in the future. That is to say, we are going to have a period within our growth and development as a country that we're going to have to run with extremely inexperienced professionals who have been reskilled by sitting at home for a couple of years without jobs. So I believe that for us to actually mitigate that risk, we need to come up with very rigorous and robust programs which develop leadership and infuse that culture of thought leadership amongst us, not just our scientists, but youth and upcoming professionals in general. I was lucky
Mhm.
because I became exposed, or I got access to an American exchange program which was actually teaching leadership. And it was through that program that I learned a lot of things.
Mhm.
I was introduced to the concept of leadership and how I can apply it to my field and to my discipline as an engineer. But then it's not everybody who has access to such resources. And I believe that is where government should come in and bridge that gap. I don't know how we can do it such that it's systematic, but I really believe it needs to be infused into our training, both at primary, junior, and tertiary, because people believe leaders are born. I personally don't believe that leaders are born. I
Mhm.
believe that leaders are mentored and coached from a very early age in the development, and um, they manage to sustain and develop and build habits that actually uh, make them better and efficient leaders. So I think it's an area where Africa is leading. And I think for us to actually break ground in that area, we need to be deliberate in terms of um, revisiting our curriculum and infusing this whole thinking of leadership development into it. Because I have interacted with a lot of engineers and a lot of scientists. They
Mhm.
don't carry that kind of thinking with them. They want to be technical, they want to be in the lab, but nobody ever sits down and thinks, okay, fine, I can sit in the lab, but then there is a need within the leadership space
Mhm.
in order to create an enabling environment for future innovators. Because even though I'm passionate about innovating and creating things, I need to sacrifice that passion just so that I can break um, our country out of this spell, right? The resource spell. That is to say that I, as Cliff, as passionate as I am as a biomedical engineer, as a scientist, I have made a deliberate decision that, you know what, I'm gonna sacrifice myself just so that I can create an environment that is conducive for those who will come in the future. As much as I want to embark on research, science, and hands-on
Mhm.
um, manufacturing or industry business, I also appreciate that there is a gap, and that gap can only be filled by somebody sacrificing and taking on that role as a leader. So I believe we need to infuse in our education that kind of thinking, and it's only when we have done that that people will come out and say, you know what, I don't just wanna I don't just wanna be acknowledged. I don't wanna be a Nobel laureate.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, I want to make a difference, you know. So that's where it starts, and it starts with teaching people and infusing that kind of mindset in them. And like I said, I have been privileged because I have been here from a lot of um, international programs and exchange programs like the likes of Mandela Washington. And it was at those programs that my eyes were open and I began to see the world differently. I began to approach my professional life um, with a more problem-solving approach,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to serving my own personal interests.
Mm-hmm.
So I think leadership is quite essential, and we need to find a way to infuse it in how whenever we train our engineers and our scientists.
Mm-hmm.